Trust is fragile, yet we still seek it out, knowing it can be shattered in an instant. What makes us believe in something so delicate, only to see it crumble under the weight of betrayal? Alicia Lofton believed wholeheartedly in love. She was loyal, steadfast, and unwavering in her commitment, yearning for a life grounded in truth. She dreamed of a love strong enough to endure any challenge. Yet lurking in the shadows was a betrayal she never saw coming. Why do we conceal our true selves? Why drag others into a web of lies, knowing the inevitable unraveling is near? When secrets come to light, the truth can be devastating, but often it's not the betrayal itself that cuts the deepest. It's the aftermath that shatters us. What happens when love is tainted by betrayal? When truth clashes with deceit and trust is left in ruins? Alicia only ever wanted peace, a chance to leave with dignity, to rebuild her life. But instead, she faced an unimaginable nightmare, one no one should ever have to endure. Welcome to True Crime Documentary Cases. A heartfelt thank you to my viewers, especially my subscribers, for your unwavering support as we continue to improve and bring you both the well-known and untold stories of true crime. Please remember to subscribe and stay updated on our daily content. Alicia Lofton was many things: a devoted mother to three, a woman whose laughter could fill a room and whose warmth lingered long after she left. She was known for her kindness, a gentle spirit that brought comfort to those around her. Alicia had a hopeful outlook on life, always envisioning a stable, loving family that could weather any storm. Her children were her everything, and she poured herself into ensuring they grew up in a safe, nurturing environment. With every step, Alicia worked toward a future built on love, trust, and honesty. Life hadn't always been kind to Alicia. As a single mother, she had faced the challenges of raising her children alone, the late nights balancing work and motherhood, the sacrifices she made for her family. But she held on to hope, believing that one day she'd find someone who shared her dreams, someone who valued family as deeply as she did. When Alicia met Marcus Lofton, she thought she had found the man she'd been waiting for. To her, he seemed perfect, charming, attentive, and ready to build a future together. It felt as if fate had finally rewarded her patience. After years of focusing on her children and her own happiness, waiting for the right person to come along, Marcus entered her life unexpectedly. A man who seemed to embody everything she had longed for. She had always dreamed of this. Marcus seemed to embrace her children as his own, quickly earning the trust of everyone closest to her. To Alicia, Marcus was more than just a partner. He was the future she had longed for, a new beginning, a chance to complete the family she had poured so much love and effort into building. Their courtship felt like a whirlwind, full of promises and shared aspirations. Marcus had a way of making Alicia laugh, bringing a lightness to her life that she had been missing. His charm was undeniable, and he always knew the right words to say, making her feel special in ways she had never felt before. Together, they spent countless evenings dreaming about their future, picturing a life where they could support one another, build on each other's strengths, and create a home filled with love and security. Alicia found herself swept away in the romance, feeling grateful to have finally found someone who seemed to truly appreciate her. But beneath the surface, Marcus hid a darker side, one that only a few had glimpsed. There was a shadow in his past, a history filled with unresolved struggles and secrets he worked hard to bury. As their relationship deepened, Alicia began to uncover more about Marcus's past, a complicated story marked by secrecy and, at times, volatility. He had fought his own battles, battles he rarely spoke of. There were moments when he seemed distant, his mind wandering to places Alicia couldn't reach. Alicia couldn't quite reach him. Marcus's charm had an underlying edge to it, a subtle tension that suggested something was being controlled, perhaps even strained. Alicia, ever the optimist, believed that love and understanding could bridge any gap between them. She hoped that their shared life together would smooth over whatever haunted his past. Before Marcus, Alicia had always been cautious in love. Her experiences as a single mother had taught her the importance of trust, the need to truly know someone before letting them into her family's world. She had chosen Marcus carefully, convinced that she had finally found someone who would share her life without bringing harm to it. Yet she was unaware of the full depth of his secrets, of the layers of deception hiding beneath his composed exterior. Marcus had spent much of his life behind a mask. His charm, while magnetic, was nothing more than a carefully constructed facade, concealing years of unspoken struggles and complicated relationships. He carried the weight of unresolved issues, past relationships tainted with secrets he kept locked away, creating a hidden world that only he controlled. This side of Marcus remained an enigma to Alicia, something she sensed but could never fully grasp. Though she believed in his capacity for love, she wanted to believe in their love more than anything. Dismissing the occasional warning signs as mere overthinking, she convinced herself that Marcus had given her no reason to doubt him, or so she thought. In February 2023, Alicia and Marcus made their commitment official, exchanging vows in front of friends and family. Alicia entered the marriage with a full heart, filled with hope and endless optimism. But soon, the wedding vows that were meant to seal their love began to feel more like a mask, concealing deeper, darker truths. Soon after their marriage, cracks began to appear. Marcus's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He would become defensive over the smallest questions, and his temper flared in ways Alicia had never witnessed before. He told her it was just stress, that they were still adjusting to married life. But deep down, Alicia could feel the first seeds of doubt beginning to take root. By May of that same year, the situation took a darker turn. During an argument, Marcus's anger exploded into violence, leaving Alicia both shocked and terrified. It was no longer just an isolated incident. It was a glimpse into something far more dangerous. For the first time, Alicia saw a side of Marcus that made her question everything. The man she had married, the life she had built with him. The incident was serious enough to result in Marcus's arrest, with a condition placed on his bond that prohibited him from contacting Alicia. She felt trapped in a nightmare, her dreams of a peaceful family life slowly crumbling under the weight of Marcus's unpredictable behavior. After Marcus's arrest, Alicia had every reason to walk away. The violence, the breach of trust, it was enough to make anyone reconsider their commitment. Yet Marcus was persuasive. He reached out again, asking for another chance, apologizing and making promises of change. He swore he would make things right, telling her he was ready to be the husband she deserved and rebuild what they had lost in those few short months of marriage. Alicia, ever the hopeful and forgiving soul, wanted to believe him. She had invested so much into this relationship, not just for herself, but for her children. The dreams they had shared still lingered in her mind, pulling her back to the idea of giving Marcus one final chance. So, despite the warnings from friends and the advice of those closest to her, Alicia allowed him back into her life. But their reunion wasn't the fresh start she had hoped for. Though Marcus returned to the home, something was still missing. The air between them was thick with unresolved tension. Alicia couldn't shake the memory of the violence, the lies, and the secrets she had uncovered. She was torn between her desire to forgive and the struggle to trust again. As Marcus slowly reintegrated into their life, Alicia began to notice subtle cracks in his persona, gradual shifts in his demeanor that hinted at deeper internal conflicts. Over time, her suspicions grew. The unease buried deep in her heart sharpened, and small inconsistencies started catching her attention. She began to notice certain patterns: long evenings when Marcus claimed to be with friends, strange messages he quickly deleted, and interactions with one particular friend that felt overly intimate. Alicia's intuition began to piece together a truth she couldn't ignore. At first, she convinced herself that she was imagining things, but the clues kept appearing, each one more unsettling than the last. She found herself replaying moments in her mind, things Marcus had said that didn't add up, gestures that seemed forced. Her heart whispered that something was terribly wrong, but she held on to the hope that it was just her own insecurities. But the truth refused to stay hidden. One evening, Alicia stumbled upon undeniable evidence that shattered whatever illusions were left. It was clear. Marcus had been involved in an affair, not with another woman, but with his closest male friend. The realization hit Alicia like a punch to the stomach, leaving her breathless, as though the ground beneath her had fallen away. The man she thought she knew had been living a double life, deceiving her in ways she hadn't even considered. In that moment, Alicia's heart shattered, not just from the betrayal, but from the years of trust and hope that now felt like nothing more than a cruel illusion. But Alicia was a woman of strength. Instead of confronting Marcus in a fit of rage, she made the painful decision to quietly file for divorce. She wanted to walk away with dignity, to end things with a man she no longer recognized and begin the painful process of healing. Yet Marcus's reaction to the divorce papers was anything but peaceful. The thought of Alicia leaving threatened to expose his carefully guarded secret, and he became desperate to retain control of the situation. Meanwhile, Alicia was determined to move on, to find safety and peace for herself and her children. She believed the worst was behind her and that she could start anew. For Marcus, life was an endless balancing act. He had spent years burying parts of himself, truths he felt the world could never understand, living a life full of secrets that he desperately tried to keep hidden. He had mastered the art of compartmentalizing, building walls around his true feelings and carefully crafting an image that he believed would protect him. The pressure of living a double life weighed heavily on Marcus, pulling him deeper into an ever-growing sense of isolation. Marrying Alicia had seemed like the escape he needed, a shield that would allow him to keep hiding without raising suspicion. But when Alicia uncovered his secret, the foundation he had so meticulously built began to crack. The shame he felt from his own deception tangled with a growing anger, not at himself, but at the person who had exposed him. Rage simmered beneath the surface, a twisted response to the vulnerability he could no longer control. Rather than confronting the truth, Marcus saw Alicia's discovery as an attack, a threat that could destroy everything he had worked so hard to conceal. His emotions, torn between self-preservation and shame, manifested in destructive ways. He justified his fury as the only means of survival. In his mind, his secret had to remain hidden, no matter the cost. Alicia, on the other hand, was overwhelmed by a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The man she had loved, the father figure she had welcomed into her children's lives, was not the person she thought he was. She felt a betrayal that went far beyond infidelity. It was a betrayal of trust, of identity, and of the life they had promised to build together. Her mind raced through memories, moments once filled with love, now tainted by doubt and disillusionment. Every time she looked at Marcus, she saw both the man she had loved and the stranger he had become. She wanted to understand, to forgive, but the depth of his deception left a wound so deep that it could not be ignored. The journey toward her decision was a painful one. She knew that staying would mean living in constant doubt, a life where trust no longer existed. For the sake of her own sanity and her children's future, she knew she had to leave. Her resolve became her armor, a shield against the pain that threatened to consume her. Alicia's love for Marcus had been real, but the person he had revealed himself to be was someone she could no longer allow into her life. She felt fear, yes, fear of the unknown, fear of facing the world as a single mother once more. But that fear was nothing compared to the terror of staying, of losing herself in a life built on lies. Alicia's decision to leave marked the end of her patience and the beginning of her journey toward healing. Alicia had done everything she could to make the divorce as peaceful as possible, hoping to escape the chaos that had taken over her life. But Marcus saw her leaving as a threat he could not bear. In his mind, her departure would expose him, unraveling the carefully constructed world he had fought so hard to create. Desperation soon gave way to rage, and his behavior became increasingly erratic. On the night Alicia planned to leave for good, their final encounter took a devastating turn. As she gathered her belongings, Marcus confronted her, pleading one moment, accusing the next. The argument escalated, her pleas for peace drowned out by his mounting anger. She could feel the danger in the air, her fear growing as his fury consumed him. And then in a horrific final act, Marcus pulled out a gun and shot her, once, then again and again, each shot brutally cutting short her hopes of freedom. Alicia, who had only wanted peace, was met with violence that left no room for escape. In the chaotic hours following Alicia's death, Marcus fled the scene, fully aware of the weight of his actions. He went into hiding, consumed by guilt and fear of the consequences. It was Alicia's sister Tamara who discovered the body. Concerned after hours of silence, she decided to check on her sister, hoping everything was fine despite the deep unease gnawing at her. As Tamara entered the house, she sensed something was wrong, an unnatural quiet, a heaviness in the air. Calling out for Alicia, her voice echoed through the empty rooms. And then, in one heart-stopping moment, she found her sister, motionless. The devastating reality hit her like a wave. Tamara's screams brought neighbors rushing to the scene. When the police arrived, they found Tamara in shock, unable to process the horror she had just witnessed. The officers carefully documented the scene, noting the signs of a struggle, overturned furniture, the unmistakable evidence of gunfire. Every detail was methodically recorded, marking the beginning of a haunting investigation. Marcus was nowhere to be found. The police quickly launched a manhunt, alerting surrounding areas and mobilizing units to track him down. Investigators worked tirelessly, tracing his last known movements, interviewing his friends, and tracking his phone records. Each passing hour without his capture only fueled the urgency of the search. It was a tip from a witness that eventually led them to Marcus. Days after the crime, someone spotted him staying at a motel on the outskirts of town, trying to keep a low profile. Police surrounded the motel, and Marcus, realizing he had nowhere left to run, was taken into custody without incident. Back at the station, Marcus was questioned, but his attempts to explain or justify his actions rang hollow against the mounting evidence. The confident facade he had once maintained crumbled as the reality of his situation set in. Marcus Lofton, once Alicia's husband, was now facing charges for her murder. His escape from justice was cut short by the determination of those who sought the truth for Alicia. As detectives began their work, the truth slowly unraveled. They combed through Alicia and Marcus's history, piecing together months of turmoil that had led to this moment. Interviews with family, friends, and neighbors constructed a timeline of a relationship marked by conflict, fear, and ultimately betrayal. When questioned, Marcus tried to deflect, offering his own version of events, but the inconsistencies in his story, combined with his history of violence, quickly raised red flags. The case against Marcus gained strength when detectives uncovered his prior arrest for domestic violence against Alicia. This was not an isolated incident, but the culmination of a pattern, each act of aggression painting a clearer picture of a man who refused to let Alicia go. As the case went to trial, every piece of evidence, every forensic detail, and every contradiction in Marcus's account deepened the gravity of his actions. There was no room for doubt. In the courtroom, Alicia's loved ones sat in quiet agony, forced to confront the full extent of her suffering while Marcus's betrayal was laid bare for all to see. When the trial concluded, the full weight of his actions was revealed. Marcus was found guilty of Alicia's murder and sentenced to life in prison. But for Alicia's family, no verdict could undo the pain. No sentence could bring her back. Her children, now without their mother, faced an unimaginable loss, one that would echo throughout their lives. The tragedy left everyone who knew Alicia questioning how it had all gone so wrong. How could someone who promised love and safety become the source of such heartbreak? Was there a moment when this tragedy could have been prevented? And most painfully, how does a family begin to heal from such an act of betrayal and violence? Alicia's family, friends, and children were left to carry the emotional toll. They struggled to pick up the pieces, grappling with memories of happier times, now overshadowed by the darkness of her final moments. For her children, the journey forward meant growing up with questions that may never be answered, and a loss that time could only partly heal. In the end, Alicia's story leaves us with haunting questions. How did a relationship that began with promises of love end in such tragedy? Could anyone have seen the signs or done something to prevent this devastating loss? When trust is broken and secrets are revealed, who ultimately bears the cost? Is it the one who hides in the shadows, or the loved ones left to carry the weight of betrayal and loss? Thank you for joining us today and reflecting on Alicia's story. If you found this narrative impactful, please consider subscribing to our channel for more stories and discussions on the real-life consequences of betrayal, resilience, and justice. Your support helps us continue sharing these important stories. Until next time, thank you for watching Lesson from this story, The Dangers of Concealing the Truth Lesson Expansion. Living a life of deception may appear to offer temporary protection, but in the long run, it often leads to far greater harm, both for the person hiding the truth and for those who are impacted by the lies. Marcus's choice to conceal his true self from Alicia and others was an attempt to protect himself from judgment, vulnerability, and perhaps even the consequences of his actions. He built a carefully constructed facade, to component placement one that allowed him to continue his life under the guise of normalcy. However, in doing so, he severed the real connections he could have had with people who cared about him. Why deception is harmful. Loss of true connection. By hiding the truth, you prevent others from seeing and understanding the real you. Relationships built on lies cannot grow in a meaningful way because there is no room for authenticity. Alicia's love for Marcus was real, but she was loving an illusion, not the person he truly was. When the truth was eventually uncovered, the emotional damage was not just the shock of discovering the secret, but the realization that their entire relationship had been based on something false. The connection they had built over time, one that should have been genuine and solid, was now shattered, leaving them both in emotional turmoil. The emotional toll of concealing the truth. Deception requires constant maintenance. A person who lives in constant fear of their lies being exposed is bound to experience stress, anxiety, and a deep sense of isolation. Marcus's ability to maintain his facade became a psychological burden that weighed on him over time. The pressure of keeping up a false image made him feel increasingly disconnected from reality, causing him to spiral into emotional instability. In contrast, living honestly might bring discomfort in the short term, but it frees you from the exhausting cycle of maintaining a lie. The truth, while difficult to face at times, offers liberation and emotional relief in the long run. The consequences of avoiding the truth. Marcus believed that by hiding his true nature, he could protect himself from the pain of rejection or judgment. However, avoiding the truth only made matters worse. The longer he hid it, the greater the stakes became, until his lies led to devastating consequences. When Alicia discovered the truth, the betrayal cut far deeper because it wasn't just about the secret itself. It was about how much trust and love had been undermined by that secret. In the end, the damage caused by the deception was far greater than if Marcus had simply been honest from the beginning. Honesty builds trust. Trust is the cornerstone of any healthy relationship, and it can only be built through transparency. When you conceal the truth, you plant seeds of doubt that can grow into distrust. Once trust is broken, it is difficult, if not impossible, to rebuild. Alicia's pain stemmed not only from Marcus's actions, but from the fact that he had kept her in the dark for so long, denying her the right to make informed decisions about her life and their relationship. By contrast, when you are open and honest, even difficult conversations can strengthen bonds, as both parties know they are facing the truth together. The price of secrets. The secret that Marcus kept from Alicia, the truth he was hiding, was ultimately the thing that led to her death. His deception pushed him into a corner, where his fear of being exposed escalated into rage and violence. Secrets may seem like a means of self-preservation, but they can easily spiral out of control and have catastrophic consequences, as they did for Marcus. In this case, his attempt to preserve a false image of himself led not just to the collapse of his relationship, but to irreversible tragedy. Facing the truth allows growth and healing. Confronting the truth is often the hardest step, but it's the first step toward healing and growth. Marcus's unwillingness to face the truth caused him to make choices he couldn't take back. When we avoid facing the truth, we deny ourselves the opportunity to grow, learn from our mistakes, and become better versions of ourselves. On the other hand, facing the truth, no matter how painful, opens up the possibility for self-reflection and change. For Alicia, even though the truth was devastating, it allowed her to make the difficult decision to leave the marriage and seek a better life for herself and her children. Honesty, though painful, can pave the way for greater personal strength and emotional freedom.